The concept is resilience is the ability to stay positive and effective in difficult and challenging times and feel positive about the future. The workshop is based on positive psychology, which I'll explain more in a minute. It's an evidence-based workshop. All the tools and techniques that we're going to be introducing to you are scientifically proven to be effective. It's a whole person approach. It's not taking you in one slice of your life and saying, we're going to build you as an employee, etc. This is the whole person. So throughout the day or the morning, you're thinking about yourself as a person. And it's not a system, it's not a package. They're not 6 steps, the 12 steps to happy resilience. What we're going to put in front of you is a set of ideas, a set of concepts, but most importantly, practical tools that have been proven through research to have a beneficial effect. You choose the ones that are going to work for you. You choose the area you want to focus on. So as I say, it's not a system, it's not 6 steps to resilience and ultimate happiness. The objectives: developing an understanding of the nature of resilience, experiencing practical tools, and you're going to develop what we call a personal resilience plan. People here may stay linked together by common interest because everything we know about change tells us that you can't do it on your own. You can go away with the best will in the world saying, I am going to do this. But unless you establish links with other people to do it with or to provide support, it's unlikely to happen. So relationships and support are critical to changing in this area. Now, the workshop itself is based on 5 keys that basically unlock resilience. The first one is an integrated life strengthens resilience. This is very different from the concept of work-life balance. Work-life balance is this notion that you've got work here, life here, and somehow we've got to get them to balance. I don't know anyone who's ever achieved that in practice. It's almost impossible that an employer can guarantee that you have work-life balance because they don't control your life. Work is extremely important in our lives, especially in our adult life. So the concept is, it's not actually pitting one thing against another, but integrating the various components of your life that we know contribute to well-being and resilience. And I'm going to use this word well-being and resilience almost interchangeably, because the higher your well-being psychologically and as a person, the higher your resilience becomes, unless you've got a specific problem that may be related to another issue. So a lot of this is designed to raise well-being. Positive emotional states. Now that seems a bit of a mouthful. Positive emotions will do. In the last 10 years, we've actually discovered some fascinating things about positive emotions. We now know that if you can increase these positive emotions in your life, your resilience goes up. So there's another key theme to this workshop. The third theme is mindset, and this is fundamental. Mindset is your mental attitude to the world, your habits of thinking, your habits of reacting, sometimes called your explanatory style, the way you interpret the world. The most important thing is the distinction between a pessimistic view of the world and an optimistic view of the world, and we'll be dealing with that one. Some of you are naturally pessimistic, but you can actually work your way out of a slightly negative, pessimistic view of things. Natural strengths, getting into flow, has a big impact on performance and a very big impact on satisfaction. We'll be explaining that, getting you to experience it. And finally, rituals. And this is the key to turning good intentions into habit-forming behaviour that really brings about change. So those are the 5 keys on which this workshop is built. But just to begin with, a few words about positive psychology. Positive psychology was really brought about by this guy, Martin Seligman, just over 10 years ago. He was president of the American Psychological Association. He gave a presidential talk at the end of his presidential year, and he said, actually, psychology has failed in some respects. It's been remarkably good at mending people when they've got a problem, when they're depressed, when they've got anxiety, when they've got personality disorders. In the last 50 or 60 years, it's had remarkable success in describing, diagnosing, treating people with problems. But actually, when you get people to recover from anxiety and stress, that doesn't actually make them happy people. It means they don't have stress and don't have anxiety. And he showed these amazing statistics that in this period between 1967 and 2000, the number of studies on, these are scientific studies, you know, under controlled conditions, published to scientific standards in academic journals. 5,500 on anger, 41,000 studies of anxiety, 54,000 depression. But look at the other side, 1,170 on happiness. The ratio was 21 times as many studies of what's wrong with us than with what is right about us and how to go from strength to a stronger position. So he came up with this concept for the last 10 or 11 years, and now scientific psychology is applying itself much more enthusiastically, much more energetically to the study of what makes human beings flourish, what makes them successful, what makes their performance optimum and life worth living, with a specific focus on positive emotions, positive characteristics like optimism, for example, and how do we build organizations where we have less threat to people's well-being, which is the negative way of putting it. How do we build organizations so that people thrive? So that was the concept of positive psychology. It's not to be confused with positive thinking. One of the problems of scientific psychology spending so much of its funding, time, energy, research effort on, if you like, the negatives, was that people's desire to discover how to be more happy, to have more life satisfaction, was actually left to an unscientific self-help industry. And they published books by the hundreds and sold by the millions. And although some of these books are quite helpful, and some of them have very practical insights, they often have not a shred of evidence that what they're saying actually works. But nonetheless, there's huge demand. So this is a change of emphasis. This workshop is based on the science of well-being, the science of how you can be happier, the science of increasing your life satisfaction. Research on life satisfaction has tended to focus on three broad areas. One, the life of pleasure. By the way, these are the areas that contribute to people's happiness and well-being. One is the life of pleasure. Second is personal growth, where we feel that we are increasing our skills, our self-knowledge, etc. And the third area was a life based on meaning and values. So there's been quite a lot of research over the years in these three areas. So when I was thinking about working this area of running workshops on well-being and resilience, I took these three areas and added another layer, which are the physical and biological foundations of well-being. And it produced this very simple model. And this is what we mean by an integrated life. On the bottom, we have the physical, biological foundations of well-being, physical exercise, sleep, and nutrition. We know a great deal of the way these things contribute to people's well-being. On top of that, we have positive pleasures or positive emotions, then we have personal growth, and then we have meaning. What we're going to do is get you to do a self-rating in each of these 6 areas. So we're going to describe in a little bit more detail what these 6 blocks actually mean, and then we'll ask you to form a view. How am I doing under the category of physical exercise? How am I doing on personal growth? How am I doing? And that will help you identify where you might need to improve or where you most need to improve. And that would then help you focus and prioritize.